It's all happening. Oops.
Do you have to unmute you?
No. Okay. Very good. Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Snowy Valleys Council, the 18th of August. Sorry, the 15th of September 22. I'll ask Councillor Ivel if he'll do the acknowledgement of country.
Thank you, Mayor Chaffey. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.
This meeting is being live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow the Council's debate and decisions. Members of the public participating in the meeting agree to have their images, voice and personal information, including names and address, recorded and broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be live streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath of affirmation of office they made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligation under Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or are in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of an emergency at council meeting, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. If participating in the meeting from an alternative venue, please enact an evacuation plan for that location if required. Apologies. Leave of absence. We have a leave of absence granted to both Councillor Ham and Councillor Hughes.
I'll move that they be
Been
accepted.
moved. Seconded. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Ivel. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Public forum. We have no public forum. So, gentlemen.
Declaration of pecuniary interest, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
Declaration of pecuniary interest.
My apologies. My apologies. Declaration. Anybody with a declaration of pecuniary interest?
Declare an interest in 10.4 pecuniary as I'm a member of the Adelon Community Enterprises, and I'll leave the room during discussion.
Very good. Any others? If not, we'll go to the public forum, which I said there are participants. The confirmation of the minutes of the 18th of August 2022.
I'll move that they
Been moved by Councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Larter. Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Correspondence?
Silence.
Oh, apologies, yes. I think it might be appropriate that if council devotes a minute of silence to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. We'll commence now. Should we stand?
It's always not.
Thank you. Correspondence and petitions, we have none. Notice of motion and notice of rescission. 7.1,
I'll move the recommendations.
been moved by councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder?
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Amar. Any debate? Second time of asking, is there any debate? If not, I'll put the motion.
Only,
Sorry.
I think
Councillor
I've
Livermore.
spoken about this before, Mr Mayor. Regardless of what sort of structure you have, I mean, its effectiveness is always going to be determined by the, I guess, the skill sets and so on of the people you have filling those roles. And I might be a little bit old-fashioned in that. Given the amount of or the number of different areas of operation under the directors in the two director system, knowing how difficult it is to sort of recruit staff, I'm just not convinced that it's going to be easy to recruit people with that skill set and that sort of understanding. It's always been something I've thought of. You nearly need the people at the top of a directorship to have very, very good knowledge of all the operations under that directorship. So that's my concern. As I say, it comes back to the sort of people you can get. But I just feel it's probably, you're asking a lot to get somebody that has a full range of skills and expertise in all those areas of operation under each directorship.
Is there any further discussion?
I'll speak for the motion.
Councillor Thompson.
The reason this has come about is that in the recruitment process that we have been going through in relation to a new general manager, and it was raised with us by the organisation going through. The difficulty is that the three directorships, one had a reduced loading of responsibilities in there. And the reason that was given to us in the discussion that we've had is that if you have two highly qualified directors, but you also have an increased level of managers with again, a raised capacity and understanding, it's easier to attract two really good quality directors and then to actually bring up that next level of management that empowers those people as well. So it was something that we discussed, but also we're understanding the difficulties within local government and even securing staff. My understanding was that to have your general manager, the CFO is technically to one side, but then you have your directors, but it's that next level of management that is also really critical. And they are the ones who will be supporting their directors, but also being guided by the directors.
Any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Do you wish your vote recorded, councillor Livermore?
Oh, no.
That's the rescission.
Righto. Righto, now we've rescinded the motion.
That's not a touchscreen, me.
No, that's right. That's not a touch screen. Now, someone move the recommendation.
I'll move the recommendation.
We moved by councillor Thompson. Is there a second? Councillor Ivel. Is there any debate?
The alternative recommendation.
If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Righto. Mayoral minute. I have a mayoral minute acknowledging the passing of John Osland, Snowy Valleys Council Interim Executive Director of Infrastructure, and I recommend that we hold a minute's silence in the memory of John Osland. Council and staff will be aware that John Osland tragically passed away on the night of Thursday, the 1st of September, 2022. John had a long background in local government in New South Wales and commenced with Snowy Valleys Council in March of this year as Interim Executive Director of Infrastructure. During his time at Council, he worked tirelessly to progress a number of major projects that were stalled while overseeing the day-to-day operation of the Directorate. His work in the multi-purpose evacuation centre was particularly noteworthy. Both the Interim General Manager and myself have passed on Council's condolences to John's wife, Janine, and his family. John is survived by Janine, his 2 adult children, and a grandson. Could we all please stand for a minute's silence in memory of John? Thank you. Item 9 is urgent business without notice.
Mr Mayor, I have an urgent notice to make.
Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. My motion is that Council request the Minister for Local Government demerge Snowy Valleys Council, given the previous decision of the Boundaries Commission, who voted 3-1 to support the Snowy Valley Council demerge, and the Minister's decision to allow Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council to demerge. This would reduce the financial burden and any further risk to the emotional health of the Snowy Valleys Council community.
Thank you.
I'll second it if it's deemed
Second.
urgent.
Councillor Lara.
Say it's not urgent.
Sorry.
You've got to say you deem it urgent.
We've got to vote on it.
Having deemed that notice of motion as urgent, we'll now deal with it. It's been moved and seconded. It's moved by Councillor Hayes and seconded by Councillor Lara. Is there any debate?
Look, just to say that it reduces the burden of emotional stress. It also reduces the burden of expense, because we would not have to pay for another business case. It's pretty clear that most of the community are in favour of a demerge, and you know, despite the best efforts of staff and councillors, you know, the community is minded that way, and you know, we are elected by the community. So I think we test the waters with Minister Tuckerman, see whether she has the appetite to just let this, you know, to give us the same as what Cootamundra-Gundagai got, given that we had a 3-1 before. So you know, it's certainly very harrowing to sit through those that time up there in Tumbarumba and Tumut when the meetings were on. So you know, I wouldn't want staff and councillors to have to go through that again. If there's any way to circumvent it, this is an option for the minister. If she agrees, well, it shortens the process.
Thank you.
We just need to vote on it.
Just so you.
Oh,
Just well, I concur with what councillor Hay says, but I just procedurally think we probably need to vote whether it's urgent.
That's what I
right.
said. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Righto, so I've suggested it's a matter of urgency. Would someone move that it's a matter of urgency based on that? Councillor Hayes, second by Councillor Livermore. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We have a motion before us dealing with the proposed demerger issue, moved by Councillor Hayes and seconded by Councillor Larter. Is there any debate on that issue? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Governance, pardon me, governance and
10.1.
10.1.
10.1, governance and financial reports, 10.1, page 23.
I'd like to move the recommendation with an addition of a part E. And so another motion to be submitted to the conference that local government New South Wales engage with relevant state government representatives to develop policies that support provision for betterment in relation to disaster funding consideration.
Is that part B or is it?
D, E.
E,
Part E.
Okay.
So we've got A, B, C, D, and I'm proposing that we have another motion that is included. So,
Right, so you're moving with that inclusion of part E.
yep,
Is there a seconder? Councillor Oval, been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Oval, with the inclusion of part E as read out. Is there any debate?
I'd just like to thank the General Manager or the Interim General Manager for the wording in the previous ones. I know that Transgrid is important, or the issue of Transgrid, and also the protection of food producing lands. And following the presentation this morning, I also feel that it's important that we make a very clear message that to state as well as federal, but particularly seeing as it's a state government conference that we're having, is that they need to understand the importance of enabling local government to look at betterment when replacing infrastructure that's been destroyed, whether it's been through fire, flood or any other disaster. And I think that until we get the government understanding that you just can't keep replacing the same infrastructure with the same infrastructure and expect a different outcome is just ludicrous. We are wasting good money.
Fair enough. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 10.2 is the draft payment of expenses and provision of facilities for the Mayor Council policy for public exhibition. Is there a mover?
Councillor Larter.
Councillor Larter, seconded by Councillor Livermore. Is there any debate on this issue? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. We'll go to 10.3, schedule of ordinary council meetings, dates and times.
Can I move the recommendation, but I'd like to change the wordings, and also in point 1, I'd like it to read that approve the following ordinary council meeting dates for 2023, commencing at 2 p.m. and to be held at an appropriate location in Snowy Valleys Council. So to remove that they're always held at the Tumut Chamber, and to put a second point that the appropriate venue be announced at the previous monthly meeting and advertised. And then point 3 remains the same as previous 2.
Is everybody cognizant of what that is suggesting?
Yeah, I don't think it's, I'll speak against it.
Well, just a minute, I'll get a seconder first. So is there a seconder? Councillor Livermore, it's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Livermore with
Well,
the
in that case,
inclusion
I'll
of,
speak to it then.
right?
Yeah.
Any debate?
I'll speak to the motion then. The original report that was put out prior to the merger clearly outlined that part of the need for harmonisation of our communities is to actually hold these meetings at various locations and to be inclusive. And I think that what has happened is that we need to make sure that we are inclusive of all our communities, and there's nothing that says we have to be bound by this council chamber. We can actually hold council meetings down in Cancoban or Adlong or Batlow. So it's really important that we get out and involve ourselves with the community. In this day and age with technology, there is nothing that stops us from being able to live stream and in fact actually present a meeting from locations other than the chamber here in Tumut. And I just think that in order to be inclusive of our wider community, we need to make the effort to not always have everything Tumut-centric with meetings.
Speaker against, councillor Lara.
Oh, well, to be honest with you, I don't think it's got anything to do with inclusivity. I think the fact that we're going live streaming makes it inclusive for everyone. But the reality is that this facility is where the staff are predominantly. It's where the live stream has been set up to capture the best audio and video. And I think that there'd be added expense. I mean, if we want to go out into the community, we go out into the community and we do visits. I mean, we don't necessarily need to go out and hold a meeting at Cancoban. That would just be completely ridiculous and added expense that we haven't budgeted for or can't. If we need to get an expert in relation to a matter, we've got them in here. I just think it makes sense to let the public know that this is where the meetings will be held, so that there's consistency. And from a budget and from a practical point of view, from the staff and councillors, it just makes sense to do it at this location.
Thank you. Any speakers for the motion?
Look, I just like it recorded that, that it was said that there's nothing to stop us from live streaming it from anywhere. Well, I couldn't see meeting in July because it wasn't live streamed. So, are we compounding the problems by moving it around? So just
Any other speakers for or against?
Yeah, look, I'd speak for it. I think inclusivity to the community has got more to do than just, the ability to live stream. Feedback I've got from most people, and going back, we were sort of told, well, we really have to have it here because this is where all the technology is set up for the live streaming and so on. A lot of the people in the community have provided some feedback to say, I don't know about your live streaming, it's pretty poor quality. So I don't know. I'm not a tech guru, so I can't tell you the answers to that. But I know recently, for instance, Wagga City have resolved to take their meetings on the road, and basically their tech experts have said, well, you can do it anywhere where you've got mobile phone connection. So I don't know if the technology aspect of it is an unsurmountable problem. But yeah, I think in terms of getting out amongst the community, and I guess you're demonstrating to the community that they're all part of that community. And I don't think that's necessarily achieved by just the fact of, we can live stream it.
Mayor Chaffey, I will note that the previous Tumut Shire Council did have meetings in Talbingo and Adelong and Tumut. But they came at a cost. So, and I'd imagine the cost of travelling would be more these days than it was then, given that we are now live streaming. So, I don't mind where we have it, but I'd like to know the cost. And I think that's reasonable that we do know the cost. So until I can find that out, I won't be voting for this.
Councillor Idle.
Yeah, Mayor Chaffey, I don't have an issue with taking it on the road, but I don't think it should be done on a rotational basis. We could have a period of time in next year where we actually go out to these communities as a one-off or maybe a two-off, but not on a regular basis, because I agree with Councillor Lara and Councillor Hayes. There is a cost involved. I think we need to engage with the community, but I don't think we need to do it on an ongoing basis
And budget.
and budget. Yep.
Any other comment?
I just comment there in relation to that. I think the motion probably nearly covers off on that it would be determined at the previous meeting as to where you might have those other numbers. And yeah, look, I wouldn't necessarily think it would mean you just have a fixed rotational system of meetings, particularly into the small. I know at Tumba we met at Can Cove and we had meetings at Rosewood. I mean, you can meet just about anywhere, but you didn't do those on a real regular basis. They were sort of, you might have done one a year at those or something like that. But I think it does help. I recently attended the Couva meeting in Cancoban, and that was one of the issues there, was that there's a feeling of alienation, that they very rarely see anyone from council and so on. So that feeling's out there in the community. And whilst a couple of the people down there said they always watch all of the meetings on the live stream, but there's still that feeling that, there's a bit of separation between what council's doing and the community.
Councillor.
Just to supplement my point I made before, Mayor Chaffey, thank you. I think it's important, as I said, that we do get out on the road to other areas within our council area. But I think we need to make sure that those community members that live in that area are aware that we're coming. And if we do hold our meeting there, it's an opportunity to come and meet the councillors. And if they've got anything to talk to council about, that's their opportunity.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Any further debate? If not,
I'd like to close debate. The
Councillor Thompson.
reason I've worded it as I have is that it's not prescriptive as to the fact that every meeting has to be in a different location. We can hold meetings in Tumut, but the way it was worded previously in the recommendation was prescriptive to always be at the chambers here. The concern that I have is that, just as Councillor Ivell has raised, it's an excellent opportunity for the workshop component of our council day to actually engage with members of the community or organisations if there is a major development, or if there's a report that pertains particularly to that community. It's quite prohibitive for anybody, if they want to do public forum, if they have to take the time and always travel down to Tumut to do the public forum, or even if they want to engage with council. So it's not that we're going to be on a continual rotational circuit of every month is at a different venue. This gives us the flexibility to work in conjunction with those communities. Of course, we would advertise. That's part of what we have to do in accordance with the Act anyways, to advertise where the meeting is to be held and the time and the date. So I believe that this recommendation or this motion actually gives us flexibility.
There's no further debate. Councillor Thompson has closed the debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Snowy Valleys Council Community Grants, 10.4.
I'm out of here.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. The recommendation is in front of you. Someone move the recommendation. Councillor Thompson, is there a seconder? Councillor Armour. Any debate on the issue? Councillor Lara.
Is it possible to move into committee to get some understanding of what some of these?
You want to move in the committee? It's been Councillor Lara's moved. We go into committee. Is there a seconder?
One second.
Councillor Armour. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Lara.
It'd be just good to find out from whoever the panel were in relation to this, what the background to some of these are, it seems on face value a bit odd to me that, say for instance, the Girl Guides, they're given $5,000 for shed when they've got a building unused that we were debating in relation to the evacuation centre. There's one, and if somebody could tell me what the See Me, Hear Me theatre is, that's
Right. The Girl Guides now meet out of the Anglican Hall, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe that they see their building as uninhabitable up there, and they need a shed to store their equipment. I've looked at the Girl Guides Hall and think, it's a facility that's not used, and do we do it up or not? But anyway, that was the reasoning behind that one. Would you like to speak to the Hear Me, See Me theatre, Councillor Thompson?
The See Me, Hear Me theatre, and I think it's very hard if you haven't actually been privy to the applications. There are a lot of guidelines and things. Organisations either have to be already incorporated or auspiced by an incorporated body. So that excluded some of the grant applications up front. The See Me, Hear Me theatre is about an inclusive opportunity for people with disability, whether it's visual, seeing, hearing disabilities, to actually participate in many of the events and cultural events, but not only those, but even in relation to when we have natural disasters, being able to access the information for emergency evacuations and updates on events that are happening. So the See Me, Hear Me theatre was one that was actually rated very highly, and I think it's important for people to understand that it's also included an independent person who has nothing to do with council, who actually participated. The way that the process worked is that people are given all of the applications and an independent ranking sheet for every single one. We go through, we rank them, we give them a rating. But as I said, there is criteria that they needed to either be incorporated or auspiced by an incorporated body. We also looked at whether or not, in the case of some, they are a business, so they have things like poker machines to generate income, and we didn't feel that that was necessarily appropriate for grant funding either. So this was done independently before it was worked together, and so it wasn't any one person who could make a decision, and that's the process.
and so. Is there any reason the background information wasn't shared with all the councillors?
Because it's a grant application process that had a panel. I'm sure that it was the same way that it was conducted in the previous council.
But was there a resolution for that?
I'm not quite sure what you're pertaining to.
Well, for
Councillor
the actual panel, where'd the resolution come for that consistent for the mayor, deputy mayor, and independent?
My understanding was that the way it's been done in the past. Right?
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know. I can't vote for this because I don't know anything about it. I don't know the background of any of it. It's just. I'm just going off what's here. There's no resolution of council to actually.
Well, there was a resolution to put it out for grant for applications, right?
Yeah, but the panel, there should be a resolution of council to of what that panel consisted of.
My understanding was that panel was appointed by the previous council in those guises, e.g. the mayor, deputy mayor, and the independent individuals.
Well, this is a new council.
Used last time.
I don't know what went on in the previous council. I'm sure there would have been a resolution. There isn't one here.
I'm making the assumption that that was a resolution of the previous council, which pertains to this council, unless it's overturned.
Well,
You might correct me there, Mr. General Manager.
I'm not able to comment, Mr. Mayor. I don't know where the makeup of the panel came from, right?
No, I mean,
get an answer.
if there is a
But
resolution.
the resolution would continue, yes.
Yeah.
Can I just say, though, that the process that was followed was one that has been the same process as been conducted by previous councils. It was done by independents in the first instance, then a discussion, there were guidelines, there is all of the information, all the paperwork available if people need to question anything. But to actually question the process of what we're doing here is, I can only assume, is trying to discredit the allocation of funds.
No, I beg your pardon. It's nothing to do with that. It's about policy, and you're asking me to allocate funds. You're asking me to allocate funds that I know nothing about.
It was elected by the council.
I don't know the background. There's no
Look,
background.
I don't know the background either. I'm just making an assumption that this was based on the previous process within Snowy Valleys Council.
Elected by the
There's no
council.
resolution to the fact that it should change, and as such, we've proceeded down that path.
Julie's got some information on the issue which may clarify the matter, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I've been advised by staff that it's actually a grants assessment panel, not a committee, that the panel was elected by the councillors at the start of their term, and that a report was submitted to council at that stage.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Well, where's the resolution?
I don't have that with me, but that's what staff have advised. That,
Well,
and we can
I
get
mean,
that.
it's always been my understanding that regardless of that the information would be circulated to councillors. I mean, it seems at odds to me that, you know, as elected body, we don't have the ability to interact.
I can't comment on that, Councillor Larter. I'm working on the premise that this was the procedure that was adopted by the previous council. If you wish to change that procedure, I think there's the opportunity exists for you to move in that direction. But this is my understanding is that we are proceeding in exactly the same way as Snowy Valleys Council has proceeded in the past.
I move that we go into council out of committee.
Move that we go back into council. Is there well, Councillor Thompson's moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Armour, put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Is there any further debate on this issue? If not, the recommendation is endorsed a project recommended for the funding by the Community Strengthening Grant Assessment Panel being, and then endorsed the projects recommended for funding by the Capital Sports Grant Assessment Panel being. There's no further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Righto. 10.5,
Can we
Councillor.
get Councillor Hayes back?
Expenses, council expenses for the 6-month period ending the 30th of June. Any comments?
Haven't moved or seconded.
Anyway, it's been, the recommendation is the council note the information. If there's no further comments, we'll go to 10.6.
No, hang on, no.
We've got to vote
Someone's
on
got to move it and second it.
I'll move it.
Been moved, seconded. Councillor, sorry, Councillor Ivor. Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Yeah, just a question.
Statement of investments, 10.6.
One question before we go. Councillor nameplates, $126.
That's these. Flash, aren't
I
they?
hope not.
Maybe on notice.
Yes,
Oh, no,
thank you.
they didn't come from.
Unless they're our name badges.
They might be the name
They'd be
badges.
the
Yeah,
name badges.
The gold in colour only.
yeah,
Yeah.
These are gold,
those badges.
Yep.
just not.
I've lost
Plated.
mine. Got another one?
What component of the 200 and, what was it, 26? Yeah,
They would be for our name badges and they would be around $126 for all of us.
You taking a note?
Not for this.
No, not for
They're
that.
not plastic.
No. Yeah.
Very good.
Statement of
So who
investments.
seconded it?
Mick.
Okay.
Right. Statement of
need to
investments,
vote.
10.6.
I'll move.
Councillor Thompson moved. Is there a seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Livermore. Is there any discussion noting the statement of investments? Councillor
I would just like to ask,
Thompson,
through you, Mr Mayor, and through the interim general manager to the actual finance of it, just to outline the difference between allowable investment and current investments. It's on page 42. I'm sure that people would be interested to understand what the difference is.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the allowable investments are what council has set that we can invest in institutions. So the AAA, we can do 100%, AA major banks 100%, down to the unrated at about 15%. And the green line on the graph is where we actually have the money invested. So it shows you that we're inside council policy.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Any further discussion? If not, I'll thank someone for the recommendation.
I've moved it.
Moved and seconded.
Moved and seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. Management reports, 11.1.
I'll move that.
Moved by councillor Larter. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivel. Any debate? No debate?
Only that we should be writing to the relevant minister and asking for, once we've bought it, for a refund. So that we, I don't think that we should be having to pay for these sort of things, but I know we have to buy it to move the process along.
So you're suggesting that we should write to the minister suggesting that we acquire it for a nominal sum?
Yes.
Well, that you're going to move that as an amendment, councillor Hayes?
I think you could do that as part of the
I think
operation.
part of-
couldn't you?
Yeah, do it operationally.
You're happy to
can
do
do
that?
that. Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
General Manager? Based on that comment of councillor Hayes?
Yep.
Is there any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. 11.2, Floodplain Risk Management Committee establishment. We have a recommendation. Is there a mover? Councillor Ivel, seconder. Councillor Larter. Any debate?
I think you need to appoint the two councillors.
Right. So any councillor wish to be involved in the process?
Can actually deal with that first and then appoint. We could move that and then appoint.
Well, can't we do it all?
Do it all at once.
We do it all at once. Two councillors. Who wishes to?
The only issue would be that councillor Hughes and councillor Ham aren't here and they wouldn't have an opportunity, but I don't know whether they've got an interest, but so why don't we check the room out and see where the interest is?
Well, is there anybody interested in serving on the committee, as in light of the fact that councillor Ham and councillor Hughes aren't here? This is an item that's up for discussion at today's council meeting. So
The other option is if nobody's interested, we put them on it.
there's obviously a lot of thought gone into this, councillor Hayes. That's
Through
right.
you, Mr Mayor. The motion as it stands only says that we need to appoint two councillors, two councillor representatives. It doesn't say we have to name them today. So if we make that determination that we appoint two, then that can be done after this meeting. It's not saying that we have to appoint the two today.
And I think in fairness to councillor Thompson and our two councillors aren't here, that's what we should do. Give them the opportunity.
So you wish to defer the appointment until the other two councillors. Councillor Larter?
Well, I don't interpret it that way. I think if you're going to appoint two councillors, you have to name them. I don't.
That's right. I think you do too. Myself.
Oh, no, I'm saying name them, but give the other two councillors the
Yeah.
opportunity to nominate it should they wish to.
Well,
Well, they can't if they're not here.
the alternative councillors is
Okay.
to make that recommendation, defer the appointment of the two council
council
representatives to the
next-
next meeting of council.
Is that going, that's not going to impact on the floodplain management committee?
Still raining.
Right?
Still
You're
running.
anticipating a flood or?
Needs to be,
If I can, Mr Mayor, I'd be happy to be on such a committee, but I take the point that the other two councillors aren't here. My only thought, my reading of this would indicate that primarily in the first instance, this is going to be looking at the Tumut floodplain. The Umbarumba one wouldn't come till later. So it would be beneficial, I guess, to have some local councillors with local knowledge on such a committee, because
As a matter of interest, I've seen cars and bales of silage float down the Adelong Main Street. I've seen nothing float down Tumut or Tumbarumba Main Streets.
Not down the main street, but I've seen them float down past the racecourse.
It says here, establish a floodplain risk management committee. Does it particularly pertain to Tumut or does it?
When you get into the context, Tumut flood study, paragraph 3.
I think primarily it'll be the work will be on the Tumut
okay.
study.
Is there a legal requirement to have councillors on?
That's just the recommendation.
No.
I'm not aware.
I
of
think
that.
it's in the terms of reference.
Yeah.
Days since I read it, but.
Well, it would be
yeah,
in the terms of reference. That's why it's recommending the appointment of councillors.
That's right. Yeah, it is part of the terms of reference, and which is one of the parts of the agreement to accept the funding.
So through you, Mr.
Councillor Amos.
Mayor, there's 3 Tumut people here, both councillor Hughes and Ham are not from Tumut. If that is an important part of it, councillor Livermore, then maybe you've got 3 people here from Tumut that might want to offer to do that. If that's the important part of it. There's only 3 to go.
Well, that'd be up to the 3 people.
Well,
to indicate
it is
that-
our
How about you
responsibility
defer
to
it to the
take
next
part.
meeting?
How
Do
often
you want
do
to
they
defer
meet?
it? We moved it.
Can we, is that going to cause a problem?
I wouldn't
Um,
have thought so.
Can we, Will, can
Well,
bang
you
all
can
over the
do-
place, can we do 1, 2 and 3 and leave for the next,
Well,
appoint 2 councillors at the October meeting?
There's
you wish-
obviously not a lot of understanding on this from what there needs to be a bit more back. But I'm happy with 1, 2, 3.
Well, you want to move
Well, that's
with the
fine.
compliance of the mover. Second,
Sure,
that
well-
we appoint the appointment of 2 council representatives be
To the
deferred
October
to subsequent
The
meeting,
October meeting.
October meeting.
Yes,
You're happy?
specify it.
Was that mover and second? If that's the case, any further debate with that amendment? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against, carried. Righto.
Adelong Road, Tumut, Rallying proposal.
7+3.
Adelong Road, 11-3 is the Council Road Reserve Adelong Tumut. Planning proposal, LEP. Moved by Councillor Larter. Is there a seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Livermore. Any debate?
Makes sense.
It's a unique experience.
Well, between Wagga and, Cooma, just, or Adaminaby, there's only one service station on the left-hand side, and that's in Adelong.
Hmm.
Going that one.
Yep, righto. No further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Tumut Evacuation Centre, 11-4.
I'll move the recommendation.
Been moved by councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Livermore. Any debate on the issue? Councillor Larne?
Well, I just wonder whether we actually need to have a first preference and a second preference, because I'm wondering whether we can leave it more open to further information and debate, because there's a number of factors that could sway one way or the other. And I don't think there really is, from my understanding, a standout contender. I mean, they both have their
Pluses and minuses.
pluses and minuses. I mean, it just, I think rather than sort of create angst
Perception?
or perception that we're favouring something over, it would be more prudent to maybe say, well, we support both of these as viable options, or whatever. I don't know how you.
Can I move that we go into committee, please?
Moved. Councillor Thompson, is there a second? Councillor Lara, put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. In committee. Carry on, councillor Lara.
Yeah, I think probably one of the mistakes we've made with this up till now is that we've sort of made signals to the community that probably weren't warranted, and it has created confusion. I just think the best thing is to basically get the house in order with all the information and then make the relevant decision, rather than sort of indicate that our preference is one over the other, because realistically there isn't really a preference. It's more to do with what's going to cost the least and what's going to be the easiest to build.
I think
They both have their merits.
I think one of the issues that we need to consider is that the first thing we've got to do is a geotech on each site. Do we do a geotech on both sites, or do we preference our approach on one of the two sites that we've determined are most appropriate?
Through you,
Ray
Mr.
can just talk about.
Yeah.
the
Do you wish to-
Through the mayor, the geotechnical investigation is already underway. We've done both sites.
Both sides, have you? Right, okay. So in other words, the only other things that we need to consider is the implications to the existing infrastructure, and also the impact on the surrounding or neighbours adjacent to the land. So, yeah,
Mr. Mayor, in light of the fact that
Councillor
there's
Thompson.
the community group the group that had been developed that has 3 councillors as a part of that, plus council staff, is it appropriate that somebody gives a small outline of how that's been going, or the process that is being followed at the moment, just so that it's known right around the table, but also in the community? Is that an appropriate thing for somebody to give a briefing on?
Councillor Owen, do you wish to do that?
Or Mr. McGrath?
Mr. McGrath's probably the best one to do that.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So we had a meeting last week with the user group or stakeholder group. 2 councillors were able to make it, and staff. We looked at both Richmond Park and Lockridge Park. We identified some options that were available. Some, as per the report, the location identified at Lockridge isn't actually suitable from further investigation, and we continue to engage with that community group to work through the problems and try and keep this project moving forward.
So you're saying Lockridge?
Say
that again.
Through the mayor, the site that's attached to the report, which is across the Scouts and the Girl Guides controlled land, that's not actually suitable for us to pursue with, but there are other options within Lockridge Park.
Yes, understood.
And I think also one of the things that has been mentioned, that it's gone from being a slab construction building where you need a completely flat or excavated site to one that can now be built on piers, which means that it's a cheaper option rather than putting down the concrete slab and carrying out all the excavation work. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, that's correct. We've engaged with a architect who's provided that as a solution around a couple of problems we have previously identified. But that'll be further nutted out through the design process and site assessments.
So, councillor Lara?
Can I just make another point? And I don't mean to create any offence over this, but I just wonder, from my point of view, whether on such significant projects, having councillors on a committee working things up to get to a point to come to a council meeting is such a great idea, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be sitting here as a board considering the best options. I think those that are on the committee and have been invested in the process to get it to a point are going to be of an opinion because of the interactions they've had with the group. And you're not really looking at it from a helicopter view like we would normally do. I mean, I know it's difficult in small communities, but I mean, that's just what I think. I think it's better to not perhaps stay at arm's length from that process and look at it with the pluses and minuses, rather than coming to the council with an opinion or a view that's been basically formed in the user group before we get here.
See, I disagree. And I'm not on part of the user group, so it makes no difference to me. I think it was incredibly generous of the three councillors to go along to the meeting to meet with the group, who were quite incredibly disappointed and frustrated in the fact that they've been trying for nearly 2.5 years to get an outcome. And I don't see any difference between having councillors as representatives going in a discussion group who can come and actually share the information and the knowledge, because at the end of the day, it will be a decision voted on by all councillors, not just the three councillors. And there's really no difference between that and councillors being representatives on the aerodrome committee making decisions in relation to the runway or the location or the developments that are happening out there. That's part of our role, is to engage with community stakeholders and to understand what people are thinking, to be engaged with them and to work with them for an outcome. Three councillors aren't going to influence the outcome of a vote, but they will understand working with stakeholders. 2.5 years, these people are frustrated. They're really, really frustrated, and that's why they formed their own group, and three councillors made the effort to be a part of it. I think that's slightly inappropriate.
Look, I can understand where you're coming from, councillor. Having said that, I think there are big pluses in being involved in the decision-making process to get to a point of making some substantial recommendations to council. Because what I've certainly found as being part of it is to get an understanding of where the community people are coming from, how they see the best options, and look, to a large extent, they've been very, in my opinion, very cooperative in the whole process. I think we've identified two areas that out of all the others that have been put forward as the most appropriate. As to which one is most appropriate, I'm not in a position to say yet, because I don't believe we have all the information to make that decision. However, I think that as long as we keep everybody informed of the progress of this organisation, the council will certainly be in a better position to make for want of a better term, a wise decision in the outcomes. Councillor Owen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just state that it was the most satisfying experience to go into that initial first meeting after that very vibrant address to council by that committee, to sit down around that table and come out with a very it was very unique to get everybody on that same page and actually agreeing with each other and understanding each other's difficulties in making decisions and each other's needs in wanting what we're trying to achieve. And now that information is also more out in the community. I've had netball people come to me to say it is wonderful that that's happened because now we know what's going on. It was a good experience, and I would recommend it to any councillor to be part of a community and listen to them. I'm not saying talking at them, but we had the expert staff there to give the answers. We listened and we came up with a common, and it was a good feeling for what that's worth.
My recollection is a little bit different. I think the community organisation, the community group was formed not out of frustration of 2.5 years. I think the community group was formed because they were terrified that the money was going to be given back.
Sorry?
That they were terrified the money was to be given back.
I
That's why-
think that
that's
was
why-
a significant.
That's
part
what
of the
galvanised
equation.
it.
Yep.
I think. And,
Right.
you know, it's 2.5 years, yes, but the reason it's happened quickly now is because the site that was originally picked, which was the Bull Paddock site, which was to be built on piers, was deemed, engineeringly impossible for the money we had.
Right.
So we had to find someone else. I still remain convinced that the high school is the best site for it. That's my opinion.
Right, look, is there any further debate in committee? If not, we'll go back into.
Oh, just
formal council.
what Councillor Lata said, maybe we could just, for point 1, just say commencement of site investigation and progression of procurement evacuation centre at Lockridge Park or Richmond Park, and just leave it sort of loosely that way. Because we've done the geotech on both of them, so just get rid of your first part and just say something like commencement of site, or commence site investigation, progression of procurement evacuation multi-purpose centre at
Lockeridge Park and Richmond Park.
or Richmond.
Do away with.
Councillor Hayes, can I suggest we leave approve?
Yeah.
And then just say approve commencement of site
Yes.
investigation.
Okay,
Take out the bit in the middle.
happy with it?
I'm not the mover or seconder, but
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
But are you happy with that?
I'm happy
More
with it.
importantly, yes.
Righto, we go back into committee, council, move, is there a mover? Councillor Lata, seconder, Councillor Ivor. I'll put the motion, all those in favour, against, carried. Righto, any further debate based on the recommendations that have flowed from the committee section of that debate?
I would just like to close debate then if no one else wants to
Councillor.
speak.
Thompson?
One of the things that I would really like to acknowledge in relation to this report is that in January, we actually asked the then Director of Infrastructure to look at alternate sites for this evacuation centre, and we were at that time assured that the geotech and everything had been done on top of the Bull Paddock, which it hadn't. We were assured that the residents in the street had been contacted, which they hadn't at that point. So this has come about and has been an ongoing issue for the last 8 months. And I really, at this point, would like to pay tribute to John Osland. Sorry.
Yep.
He has done or did a phenomenal amount of work to get this to this point. And he worked incredibly hard and was respected by the community and the councillors for the work that he did to progress this to this point. And I think that we owe it to him and the community to just make it happen. You know, this is not a political point scoring thing. This is about making it happen and to honour the efforts of people.
Look, I think we're certainly in a position to make it happen. There's no question about that. If you look at the other issue about the discussion regarding the ongoing funding, I think we've been assured, you might like to comment here, Mr. General Manager, as to our negotiations regarding the ongoing funding for this exercise.
I'm aware that some discussions have been held with Department of Regional New South Wales recently about the progress of the project. And at the moment, they're happy that the project's moving forward. And on that basis, I think we should continue the momentum and keep it going. It's just been pointed out to me, however.
It's basically repeating.
Yeah, I think we can probably remove part 2 of that recommendation. It doesn't add any value.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
We just stick with part one. Thank you.
Right. If there's no further debate, I'll put the motion based on part one.
As amended, as changed.
Sorry?
And
Yeah,
read it
the-
out.
Do you want me to read it?
Yep.
Approve commencement of site investigations and progression for the Tumut evacuation of multipurpose centre at Lockridge Park and Richmond Park.
Or
Or Richmond Park, yeah,
not and.
better.
Everybody familiar with that recommendation?
Mhm.
If that's the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. Proposed multi-dwelling housing lot 1. This is 11.5 on page 61. You have a list of recommendations there. Does anyone wish to move? Councillor Larder, seconder. Sorry. Councillor Ivor. Any debate?
Yeah, if I may, Mr Chair.
Councillor
Um,
Livermore?
Maybe I'll just move that we go into committee so that we can have an open discussion on it.
Yeah,
Been moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by
Yeah.
councillor Livermore. Put them to all those in favour? Against, carried. Councillor Livermore.
just, there's an awful lot of information in this. And I think unfortunately to me, and I suppose I'm putting my ex-planner's hat on here, perhaps the merits assessment of this application could have been handled a little differently. I think given the context of the site and the surrounds, I wouldn't concur with some of the comments in here that the proposed development would be detrimental to the streetscape. The issues of its proximity to a boundary. And again, we haven't got any elevations of the building, but given that it's a single-story building and probably with modern building, it's probably a hip roof. So its impact on solar access and so on for the house next door, I think would be negligible. So I think there's a number of things in here that I wouldn't agree with. In terms of, it not being beneficial or not within the public interest for its impacts on streetscape and so on. I think if you were to go and have a look at the site, the streetscape is basically a laneway with many dilapidated buildings and garages, more or less on the building line.
And tin fences.
So various structures. So this building will actually be quite a modern, tidy, attractive building. It utilises an infill, so it's making efficient use of existing services and so on. So I think right at the very back of the report, there is some options. It's a long report.
It is.
So an option there,
Page 7.
by way on page 70, to determine by way of approval and delegate the interim general manager to apply standard conditions of development consent to any notice of determination issued. I would move that that would be council's decision on this, or we're still in committee. So, and I think, as I say, given all the context of the site and what's proposed, and surrounding developments and so on, I think it's probably quite consistent with surrounding developments. And as I say, it's what you would call, I would say, a reasonable infill development in the site.
So what you're saying is that you'll move an amendment, which will be one.
I would move an amendment that would be option one.
Because the actual first part of the recommendation is only to determine the development application. And if you don't accept the A, B, C, Ds underneath, but you actually put that option there after it instead, which says that it's that we accept it and delegate to the general manager or the interim general manager.
Well, you've got to get rid of refusal then.
Yeah, well, you've got it. The first part's to determine it by way of refusal.
I think you just do away with all of the recommendation and adopt option one.
To me, option one would just simply be the recommendation.
Would the mover and seconder accept that?
No, you
Or we just
Oh, sorry, my
No, but we
apologies. We're still.
can just
committed.
vote and not pass it and then put the second bit up.
Let's move an amendment.
That's right, move an amendment. Right, any further discussion in committee?
Negative.
Sorry?
move out.
Can I
Move
just seek a
Yeah.
clarification before we move out, if that's okay? An amendment can't go contrary to the actual motion.
Yep.
So in my opinion, the only option we have is to go in and to let the motion lapse or not be carried and then put up the second,
I think
which
that's
is
right.
option.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
so,
can't have a direct negative.
yeah,
with an
you
amendment.
can't, the amendment
Yeah,
can't be
fair enough.
contrary to
Right,
the
yeah.
motion.
Right, any further discussion in committee? We've been moved that we go back into council. Councillor Hayes, the seconder, Councillor Armour. Put the motion, all those in favour? Against, carried. Can
need to
the
put the
mover and
motion.
seconder withdraw their motion and
Well, they
move?
can if they choose to.
Can the mover and seconder, would they be prepared to withdraw their? John?
Well,
Put it up and we'll-
I'm of the view that that's completely consistent with what we've done previously, delegating it to the general manager.
Yeah.
And I think that, it goes against what we've previously done, and I think it's reasonable. So now I'll choose to keep it.
Just put it.
Look, I'll put the motion and that way we can move an alternative motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it lost. Right, is there an alternative motion? Is there a mover of an alternative motion?
Option one.
Mr Mayor, I would move that the option one would form the motion to be put to the council.
It's been moved by councillor Livermore and been seconded by councillor Hayes. Is there any debate? If there's no debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried.
It's lagging.
Right, we now go to, sorry?
Jeannie's. Things plain. Yep, okay.
Draft Snowy Valleys Council Disability Inclusion Action Plan.
Move.
Been moved by councillor Hayes. Seconder,
Just in relation, it was a planning matter and I didn't vote for it.
you want it recorded?
Well,
It has to be
Yeah, it
recorded.
has to record.
That's record everything.
Yeah, right. Been moved by councillor Hayes as a seconder for the Disability Action Plan. Councillor Thompson, any debate? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against, carried. 77, Reflection Reconciliation Action Plan for
Move.
adoption. Is there a mover?
Moved.
Councillor Hayes, is there a seconder? Councillor Ivel, I'll put the motion. Oh,
Any
any debate?
Just an important document.
Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. Minutes of the committee meeting, 12-1, Aboriginal Liaison Committee, 17th of August, 82.
Moved, and also like to congratulate Sue Bolger as the first chair.
Been moved by councillor Hayes with the inclusion of congratulating Sue Bolger on her appointment. and seconded by councillor Thompson. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 85, which is minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, 10th of August. Is there a mover?
I'll move.
Councillor Livermore, seconder, councillor Larder. Any debate? Any comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Minutes of the Local Traffic Committee, 10th of August, page 87. Moved. Councillor Hayes, seconded by councillor Ivel. Any discussions?
Only to thank the roads officer who's for all his hard work up to now. Very much appreciated. Road safety officer.
I'll put the motion with those comments included.
Thanks, Dave. Safety officer.
Any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
I'm gonna go to confidential.
Righto, we'll go into the confidential part of council meeting, and where councillors participate in meetings remotely by audio.
We've got members of the public in.
Yeah, no, that's right. We haven't closed the
We
meeting.
haven't closed the meeting yet.
Oh.
Where councillors participate in a meeting remotely by audio visual links, they continue to be obligated or obliged to protect any confidential information consistent with at the meeting where the meetings are closed to the public under section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillors should ensure that they participate in the meeting in a location where it cannot be seen or heard by anybody else. Will someone move that we go into the confidential part of the council meeting? Councillor Larder, seconded by councillor Livermore. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?